When I am going to questions, in the moment when I read, my brain goes to its focus on finding something. While if I am reading without a question, then it's blah, 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 blah. My
You don't
brain
know what's
receives a lot of
important.
information, and there is nothing that helps my brain to retain or to focus
Right.
on something or go deep, which is important also. Go deep in something.
Exactly.
So the way to really understand, now I see, I didn't see it at that moment. The way to really learn is going with questions because that helps you not only to find the answer, but then that will create other questions that can help you to understand more the topic. And that will help you further down the road.
Welcome to another episode of the CPA Exam Experience Podcast from SuperfastCPA. I'm Logan, and in today's video, you're going to hear me talking with Suilvida. Now, she is somebody who I saw frequently in the forum, posting questions or posting her successes. And so I kind of already had spoken to her a few times over our chats in the forum. But it was really exciting to be able to get to talk to her over this video and really get to know her story and her process. She is from Venezuela, and she had a fairly typical experience that I think a lot of people have when they're starting the CPA exams, where she didn't really know what to expect. She kind of went in blind thinking that it would just be like school. She had passed, she had gone through college, and she's like, I know how to do this. And so she didn't really know anything about the CPA exam until she went in and took her first exam. And she had an eye-opening experience, and she learned that there was a lot more to the CPA exam than she had thought. And she has a really cool story of how she was able to work through it, of how she found SuperfatCPA and ultimately decided to start using SuperfatCPA. She gives some great tips about studying for the CPA exam when English is not your first language, which I know there are quite a few CPA exam candidates where that is the case, where, maybe their first language is Spanish or Mandarin or something else. So listen to Suilvida's tips and advice because I think she has a lot of great things to share in this episode. I'm excited for us to get into it. So let's quickly go over, the typical things I go over before we start an episode, which is a reminder that we have a SuperfastCPA training webinar on SuperfastCPA.com. It is a free 1-hour webinar where we will teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam so you don't waste months or even years of your time failing exams. And after you watch that, you're going to want to learn more. So make sure you also check out becoming a member of SuperfastCPA by either buying the Pro course, where we explain super in-depth how to pass the CPA exams, basically a much more in-depth version of the 1-hour webinar, or the study materials that we have, which are our supplemental study materials like our audio notes, review notes, and mini quizzes. Or best, you could get the total bundle, which includes all of those things. So make sure you check that all out after you watch the 1-hour webinar. Now, with all that out of the way, let's get into the episode with Suilvida. Good morning, Suilvida. How are you doing today?
Fine, thank you. Good morning.
And where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling from Denver, Colorado.
Okay, awesome. And are you guys, just curious, are you guys, so in Utah, we're having a lot of fires. Are you guys having anything close to Denver?
We are not having fires, but the heat is it's gonna be like 95 this week, so it's really hot.
Mm-hmm.
It's really
Yeah,
hot.
that's kind of what's happening here too. Well, I'm excited to be talking to you today. I remember seeing a lot of your posts in the
Yes.
forum and I kind of saw your journey a little bit, just mainly throughout the forum, and then you did occasionally send me questions. So I'm excited to get to talk to you today. So let's just kind of get started from kind of the beginning. Where were you at your life or your career when you decided you wanted to get the CPA?
I was working. I had finished 8 years ago. It has been 8 years since I have finished my master's in accounting.
Okay.
I have a bachelor's degree in economics and a master in accounting, and I was working.
Yeah. And were you working in public accounting, or what kind of job were you doing?
I was working in an investment company, in a private company, and
Okay.
I was mostly working in the accounts payable area.
Okay. And so you'd been working for a while, you had gotten your master's degree,
Mhm.
and what made you decide that you wanted to get the CPA? Had it been something you'd always wanted to get, or was there a point in your career where you were like, okay, I need this?
I think that education is the door to opportunities. And at that moment, COVID was starting, and I thought that that would be a good time for me to go into a CPA.
Okay. So did you start studying during COVID? Is that what you're saying?
I made the decision, yes, and I registered. I tried to study while I was working, but I couldn't do it. It was not working for me, because I have other obligations also. So then I decided to quit my job and work on the CPA. I had the hope that I will finish like in 9 months. So I was telling everybody in my emails, I hope in December I will have my CPA. How naive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were trying to study and work, but it just wasn't working. And at that point, I'm just curious, what was it that wasn't working? Were you trying to study in the evenings, or did you just have too much going on? Like, what made it difficult?
Between the time of going to work and working and exercising and then working again and then coming home and prepare food and all those things, really any attempt to study was not fruitful. And besides that, I knew about the CPA in this country. Where I am, it is called different, but that didn't cross my mind. To begin with, in Venezuela, which is where I am from, I was studying economics, and I never thought that I would study accounting. So when I came here, I changed. No, I didn't change. I added accounting to my education. So then the CPA showed up, but I didn't have an idea how it was. I thought that was something, as I'm telling you, that in 9 months I will be done. Well, for me, that was a time that I was willing to take. But I didn't have an idea of what it involved, how was the procedure, how to register. At the point that when I paid to register and they accepted my money, I thought that accepting the money meant you are accepting the program. I didn't know that I had to have requirements to go into the CPA. Because 8 years before, when I was at school, I remember that they said, well, we are going to have this extra audit class related to government so you can be ready for the CPA. Maybe that was the first time that I heard CPA. So I thought, oh, I'm going to have this class because who knows, maybe I will do a CPA. But I didn't know what that meant, really. So 8 years later, when I decided to register, I thought, I am ready. And that's what I said at work. Yeah, I'm ready. School told me I was ready. And that was not true. I had to fulfill some extra requirements.
So you had signed up for it, and did you have to, were there any other like class requirements that you had to do, or was it more like work experience? What did you have to do to be able to qualify?
I had to take an extra class. And also, as I said, this was a lack of coaching, or I don't know, just was me not thinking that was so complex. So complex. I read the material the instructions about how to do it. And because I am coming from Venezuela, I thought I am an international student. That was the first thing that crossed my mind. So I applied as an international student. And that it took like 6 months for me, they asking me to translate the grades, etc. And suddenly something hit me. I thought, but I made an equivalence when I came here. So the university took all my grades. I am not an international student anymore. Well, it's the price of not knowing, right?
Right. So you really didn't know how you were supposed to do it. And once you changed that,
and I took the requirements, then the next class then is when I started to take tests.
And what did you start with? Did you start with like a review course like Becker or something like that?
Oh, I bought RogerCPA Review, which I loved. I was so happy I took that. Yeah, he has he teaches with his experience, so I could relate, and it was entertaining. It was like talking to someone many times I called my husband, you have to hear this, Michael. So it was just, yeah, it was enjoyable.
Right. Okay. And is Roger now part of UWorld?
Yes.
Is that okay? Okay. So you'd been trying that. You'd been trying Roger and working and all your other obligations. You decided to eventually quit. So when did you take your first exam, and how did that go?
I took my first exam on January 2022,
Okay.
and again, I got the Roger CPA review, and he explained things very well, I'm sure. But well, you don't get everything at the same time, right? So then I understood that, when they say in this test you have, we suggest that you take this quantity of minutes for this section and this quantity of minutes for this section because you need to distribute the time. I thought it meant I only have these minutes for this section and I only have these minutes for this section. That's what I understood. So when I went to the first test, and of course, I still, at that time, I thought I could do it working, and I was still in that mood that I could study and working. Or maybe I have quit already, but what I have, okay, yes, I remember now. I have 8 years that I went out of school. So even though I was in accounting and I had been in accounting before, those 200 topics that are in accounting, many of them are not in, I mean, a job is normally a few topics. You don't see leases and then you see a tax section. I mean, all together, it's hard that you see all those things. So for me, it was like, this is new. I know I saw this 8 years ago, but this is new for me now. So I started to, the only way that I knew how to study was reading the lecture first and then answer the questions. So that's what I was doing. And while I was trying to cover all 200 topics and doing those questions and not remembering because it was something that I saw 8 years ago, the result of this was that I was doing like 2 questions a day. But for me, well, I didn't know the consequences of making so few questions. I thought, well, I am progressing because at least I can do this. Right? Because also the blueprint, the way that is written, the blueprint implies that you know what they are talking about. So they tell you this section is about this and this and this. But for me, it was like, okay, so what's really this about? So I couldn't differentiate well the topics because you see inventory in the area of assets and you see inventory in the area of cost accounting. So you see inventory supposed in 3 parts and then in other area. So it was difficult for me to identify where the structure of the blueprint. It was a new idea for me. I had not seen a blueprint before also. And of course, well, yeah, that basically. So then I doing 2 questions at the beginning, and of course, then I started to progress. Right? I didn't know that I was too slow. I was not measuring me. I didn't have a way to measure me. So I went to take my first test, and when I went there, I froze in the first screen. I have not taken many TBS at home either. So I just thought, well, I have been all this time studying. I should be able to go to this test. And if I am not, well, I have to go because I already paid for that, right? So I went. And when I was frozen like for 7 minutes. And then I, came to myself. I thought, oh, I had only, I don't remember, suppose 25 minutes for this section. So I lost 7 minutes or 10 minutes. I didn't know exactly how many. So I started to clicking without even reading the question. So just to catch up with what I thought was the time where I needed to be in to continue the exam. And that's what I did. And I finished my test. I knew at that moment I wasn't prepared for this, but I took it as an experience to see how this is really. That was how I took it. So I was grateful that I had that opportunity and went home and waited for the grade. And of course I failed it. But then I registered it immediately again.
Okay.
And I didn't have a subst yet. So I continued, did the same, but I was better now. Of course, I was better, but better doesn't mean enough. So I failed it again. And then I did another mistake, which was I heard someone saying that they had, and it was not a mistake for that person, but I think I learned that we cannot compare with others because we are different. We have different skills, different weaknesses, etc. Someone said that she put all her exams one after the other, and then went and passed and passed and passed and passed. But she scheduled all of them together. And then
Wow.
I tried to do the same, or at least I scheduled 2 or 3, I don't remember. And when I went to take my second FAR test and I failed, now I think the smart thing would have been to continue to study and then take it again, because I have all this accumulation that is kind of fresh in my mind, right, of knowledge.
Right.
But then no, I had to change to the next test, and the next test in a small period I failed, but I couldn't retake it because I had already, as I said, 2 or 3 online in line.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a lesson for me that cost me time, but again I learned that I had to focus one at a time. And then
Right.
about that time was when I bought a SuperfastCPA.
Okay. And we'll get into that in just a second. So just to make sure I'm understanding you there. So were you studying for multiple exams at the same time, like studying for FAR and for audit and reg? Or are you saying you took FAR and then quickly studied for the next one and took it, and then quickly studied for the next one?
Exactly, that second
Okay,
option is
okay,
how it was.
okay.
But that
Okay.
quickly study was not enough time for me.
Right. Okay,
Mhm.
that makes sense. So, you'd been struggling up to this point. You'd had, I mean, it sounds like, like you said, if only you had had somebody who could have like mentored you a little bit earlier on, because it sounds like you just really didn't know what to expect. So that must have been so stressful on that first one, where you were like, oh no, I only have a certain amount of time, so I'm clicking through everything, and oh man, that must have been rough.
Yeah.
So you've had all these different experiences, failed all these exams, and how did you find or run into SuperfastCPA?
I don't know how. I think it came on an advertisement,
Probably.
and I read that, and I heard that I heard Nate giving like a little short advertisement, and then he referred to that 1 hour free seminary.
Right.
When I heard the 1 hour free seminary, that made sense to me. But I thought, we have spent so much money on this already, and I was not working, so I was not adding to the income for
Right.
this or for other things. So I just thought, I just have to push through. I cannot do this. I cannot ask my husband to. I mean, I could, but I just felt like
Right.
other people do it
Felt
without
like
this.
you
You can do
couldn't.
it. Yes, that's what I thought.
Right.
But then one day I was reading my scriptures. I always read my. We are
That's
very
great.
religious in my house, yeah. So I was reading my scriptures in the morning, and as I said, I was not looking for any other element. I mean, I didn't even call it strategy course, or maybe I call it, but I thought that was a luxury to pay for a course about strategy. So I was not thinking about that. I was out of my mind. And while I was reading my scriptures, I heard a voice in my mind: you need to get super fast CPA. And my experience is that that's how God talks to me. I have gone to this kind of experiences before, so I thought, I didn't even think 2 times. Maybe because I wanted in the deep of my heart, I wanted. So when he
Yeah.
refers to me, I went immediately and I bought it. Yes.
And did you get the total bundle, the pro course and the extra study notes, or was it just the pro course or just the study materials?
At the beginning, I at that moment I was thinking that I think I had the hope that I had passed at least one, and I think I only bought like I think there was a chance to not buy the whole bundle, so I bought
Right.
less than those, and then I knew I didn't pass, and then I wrote an email to Nate telling him I thought I had passed, but I didn't. And I can see that you have a special price for buying the whole thing. I don't remember exactly how it was, but I think I know he told me you can get everything for this price, and it was very good. So I just
Mhm.
get it.
Awesome. Okay, so you had listened to the webinar and you'd had all this struggle period before.
Hmm.
So what was it about the webinar and then about, the pro course that really stuck out to you? What made a difference?
I don't remember at this time what was what called my attention. It may have been, it could have been the fact that that is a like a space repetition strategy. I think that was what probably caught my attention, and maybe the part about starting with questions could have been, but I am not sure really at this moment what was what caught my attention the most.
And that
I
and that's
also
okay.
know.
So,
Hmm?
uh-huh.
I
Oh
also
no,
know
that's okay.
that after that I started to listen to podcasts
Mm,
from because those come even if in the those come in the internet even if you haven't bought anything,
right.
and listening to those experiences was inviting. So all those things were like making me think this must be good. This must be good.
Right.
Mhm.
So listen to the podcast and the webinar and kind of just getting into it. And what did you change once you got super fast CPA? Like, what did your studying look like before? I mean, we know that you were doing the lectures and doing like a couple questions and
Mhm.
things like that. What did that change to?
To begin with, the notes gave me a context because I always need a context. Reading the notes gave me an idea of what this topic is about, and then
Right.
having the context much summarized than if I go to read it in a book or to read a lecture. It was really condensed the context that Nate put in those notes. Um, I could go to the questions and and do what
Mhm.
you say. See the questions. So I didn't take too much time trying to discover. I don't know. Then I went to see the answer, and then also when you see the answer, there is again the context and the explanation. So in reality, it's
Mhm.
smart to do that because even your review course puts the summary of the topic, what's important about the topic in that answer. So after I went to the question, and as you said, there were supposed if there were 30 questions, maybe only 12 questions were topics. The rest were repetition of the same
Mhm.
topic. So if I do that every time I read that, I was like reviewing the topic again, and even though it was a different question, I was reviewing the same topic. So it was an strategy that naturally took me to repetition.
Right. Yeah, and that was something that you'd probably struggle with before because you're just watching the lectures, doing the question, and just kind of slowly moving through the material
Well,
without seeing it over again. Is that right?
I thought I was very smart because I wanted to see it. I mean, I wanted to understand it. So it was not that I
Mhm.
was just seeing the lecture. I rewound the lecture
Ah,
whenever I didn't understand it because I wanted to understand. I am a person that learns knowing the whys. So for me,
right.
it was important. Okay, what did he say? And then go back and try to understand it. And what was that? And I rewound. So it took me really a lot of time. Yes.
Right. Okay. So, but replace that with, even if it's kind of a similar idea where you're like trying to figure out the why, now you're doing it in the same way that you're going to be doing it on test
Exactly.
day. You're doing it
Exactly.
in questions, which is
Exactly.
much more useful because you're figuring it out in the same exact way you're going to be doing it.
And
Mhm,
also because when I am going to questions, I mean the moment when I read, my brain goes to is focused on finding something. While if I am reading without a question, then it's like blah 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 blah. My
you don't
brain
know what's
receives a lot of
important.
information, and there is nothing that helps my brain to retain or to focus
Right.
on something or go deep, which is important also. Go deep in something.
Exactly.
So the way to really understand now now I see. I didn't see it at that moment. The way to really learn is going with questions because that helps you not only to find the answer, but then that will create other questions that can help you to understand more the topic, and that will help you further down the road. So,
Right, exactly. So big change was going to the questions. Did you still ever watch the lectures, or did you kind of stop with the lectures?
I went to I did different with each exam, really. There were
Mm-hmm.
exams where I went to, for example, with a regulation. That was a totally new topic for me in this country. So I needed a little more context. So I supplemented also with a couple of chapters from one book from
Okay.
from school. But yeah, mostly I went to the lectures only when I feel that still there was something that I was not understanding. I went there.
Right. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So you had started studying with the questions. When did you study in the day? Did you study in the mornings, or when did that work for you?
In the mornings.
Okay, cool. And that probably was good because, I mean, that made it so that was out of the way, and then you could still, take care of your other obligations. Do you and your husband have kids?
We don't have kids, but we have a big family and we are very involved with family.
Yeah. So
So,
you were,
yeah.
so you had lots of stuff to do every
Mm-hmm.
day, and you were also probably still able to exercise, I'm assuming, because,
Sure.
and that sounds like that was really important to you.
Yes.
Was that something you were able to kind of maintain throughout the process, like still being able to exercise and take care of yourself like that?
Yes, because the components of the Superfast package allowed me for that. For example, uh, in other case, if I had not know it, if I have not had it, I would going to exercise outside. I would have felt guilty because, well, yeah, I need to exercise, but I am not studying. I have the test this
Mm-hmm.
day. But in this way, I could go and I was running or walking or doing whatever I chose to, and I have either the notes or even mini quizzes, so I could do it.
Yeah, yeah, I I felt the same way, where if I wasn't doing something, I kind of felt guilty. So having the ability with the SuperfatCPA app to, listen to the audio notes, take mini quizzes, read review notes at any point in the day when I had a little break, just
Mhm.
makes you feel more productive, and you are learning. Like, even if it's maybe not as deep as the review course, it's still a good review or still a good reminder and things like that.
For me, it was very good. I mean, it was
Mhm.
sometimes it was better because I was out, no one asking me anything, and it was enjoyable.
Right.
I mean, it was just
Nobody else demanding your time. It's just
exactly.
just yeah,
Yes.
nice. So, um, you we'll talk a little bit more about some of the other parts of your process, but I am curious, when you went and took your next exam after kind of
Mhm.
starting with SuperFast CPA, what was the difference? Did you pass or at least improve?
Well, when I get the super fast CPA, I only have like 2 weeks, or I mean, I have a short term for the next exam.
Okay, because you already had
Uh,
it scheduled.
yes, so I failed that one, but
Okay,
then came I had to also take BEC at that time, business
Becker.
economics concepts.
Oh,
Yes,
BEC. I see.
yes. Um, there was where I started really to apply the super fast CPA. I remember because I also heard this example from someone in the podcast, and I thought that was very good. I took the notes from Nate and I summarized them. I
Right.
summarized the notes. I summarized them, and that was kind of my review material. And yes, I went to the questions, and I didn't do like I hear some people do 100 questions, 50 questions. No, I mean my magic number was like 25, where I could do 25 questions and then review them, and then I mark the questions that were important that I wanted to go back to them. So I
Mhm.
even re-review, and this is a strategy that I used in most of the exams. There were some exams, mini quizzes, multiple choice questions. I mean, so not the ones from your application, but from the review course. I flagged the ones that were very good, and then I went back to them later on after I have done other exams. I went back to them because those were concepts that I wanted to keep in my mind. Were good problems.
Right.
Um, Okay, so I did that with Beck. I practiced a lot in another podcast I heard. I think it was in a podcast that for the composition part, the one where you have to write,
Right.
it was good that you knew what the keywords were for that topic, and then make sure you put those in the paragraph. So then I practiced that here. So I'm telling you that the podcasts were very helpful. The podcast of the other interviewees was very good for me. I took several ideas from there, and I practiced also that way. And also I used the mini quizzes and what? Yeah, I didn't pass that first Beck test, but I felt that maybe it was like my time to learn how to use your product, and I
Right.
felt that it was less stressful. Like I felt that I was accomplishing, that I could measure myself more. Mhm.
Right. That's awesome. So you you only had like 2 weeks when you first started using SuperfastCPA to go and try for BEC. Didn't pass that one. Um, did you end up having BEC be one of the ones that you passed, or did you have to do one of the discipline exams?
Well, let me correct what I probably transmit to you. The 2 weeks or so that I have when I got the super fast CPA was the first
Uh-huh.
audit exam, so
Oh,
which I
okay.
failed. I
Okay.
took
Okay.
there, then I took the Beck exam.
Okay.
I failed it, but then I passed it. I passed the BEC, yes, but not immediately. But just having used the super fast CPA in the BEC gave me the next time when I pass it, when I studied, I pass it, which
Okay.
is
Okay.
very good for me because some of the exams I have to take more than 2 times. Well, all of the exams I have to take more than 2 times. So having passed BEC faster was a proof for me that the program was functioning.
Right. Right. So it was
Mhm.
audit and then you tried BEC, but you feel like that first BEC attempt was kind of like your learning experience, like applying the material. I mean, applying the
Mhm.
Superfast CPA, and then you passed BEC the next time. So, I mean, the fact that you passed BEC means that you passed it in 2023, if I'm not wrong, or it could have been 2022. Um, and did you
I passed
after?
BEC in 2023, and I took that
Okay,
exam 3 times. I passed it
three
with
times.
83.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
And did that? I mean, I know that they extended the time frame. Were you able to have BEC stay as one of your past exams, or um, did it eventually come like what's the word?
I lost that
Expire.
credit. I lost
Okay,
that credit,
okay,
yes. So I
okay.
had to take the information system and controls discipline.
ISC. Okay,
Mhm.
okay. So I guess yeah, like throughout your journey, because it was a multiple year journey.
Mm.
You you recently posted that you passed, right? So it's a fairly recent thing that you finished.
Yes.
So throughout the process, how did you keep going? How did you keep yourself motivated? Even if you failed an exam, even if this happened or that happened, how did you keep going?
Because my initial reasoning continued to be true. So still having education, open opportunities,
Mm-hmm.
is the door for opportunities, and it was very important for me because that will help me to help more of my family. As I said, I have a big family, and there is a lot of young people there, and uh, we have a lot of examples about the importance of education in my family, and for me, it was a tradition to also cooperate with that example.
Mm-hmm.
For
Right.
the younger people to know that well, we keep learning and progressing, but we keep learning.
Right.
So that it is
Right.
for me.
So a big part of it was that continuing education, that example of continuing to do that. Um, and along the way, what did your family think? Were they like getting bored of you doing it, or were they really supportive? How did that all go?
Uh, my husband was my cheerleader, really. Uh, the first time that I thought like, wow, this is really hard. We're spending all this money. And then he also is a lover of education, so he also he really practices and believe on that. He brought me to the internet and he looked for the history of the CPA, and he said, look. this exam has more than 100 years in the market. This is a serious exam. It's important. And I felt that, well, if he's willing to keep holding this with me, I want to do it. So, and the rest of my family, well,
Right.
they call me, how did it go? My mom, everybody was trying to see the way that they could support me. And sometimes the ways they support me was not, don't ask me about it. And I even told them that. And then they
Yeah.
also, they also comply the most that they could with that. Because sometimes I just didn't want to say I failed again.
Right.
But what? It's done? I finished the
Yeah.
test.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how does that, so you started, do you know when you officially started studying for the CPA exam? Like how many years of a journey was it total?
It was 4 years since I took my
4
first
years.
test until
Okay.
my last test I took in April of this year, April 30th, and I knew I had passed on June 23rd.
That's
I knew that I
awesome.
had passed.
So about a 4-year journey, and a big learning experience, going from basically knowing nothing about the CPA exam to, figuring it out and passing each exam. You said that, well, do you remember which one gave you the most trouble? Which exam gave you the most trouble?
Yes, the hardest test for me was FAR, Financial Accounting Reporting. It started to be being 200 topics. And at the end, when they created the new disciplines, they took some topics and they redistributed, but still, 195 suppose, or 190 topics. I don't know how many.
Still a ton.
But it was just, so I always felt that even though I had a plan, and that was very important for me I always put like every topic of all the tests in Excel spreadsheet, and I had a plan when I was going to do it, by when I would have covered these topics, when I will start reviewing. Really, organization and planification was key, because otherwise it's overwhelming and it is discouraging. Without organization and planification is discouraging and overwhelming. So even though I did that, it was never enough time to either cover all the topics of FAR, or reviewing all the topics of FAR, or feeling confident with all of the topics of FAR. So the way that I resolved that was the time when you started writing those special videos about each of the disciplines.
Walkthrough videos.
Yeah, videos with the problems, and they were small problems. They directly responded to all what was evaluated according to the blueprint, and even it has not only was the problems attached to the question from the blueprint, but was also at the end summary called pillar topics, which was kind of like a summary, or even it could be a context. Context if I wanted before the test. So for me, I had like everything there. It was like a multi-sandwich, all I had there. And of course, helped with the fact that I had already been taking other exams. I had an idea of I have to study a lot, and I cannot think, oh, this topic is not going to show up. No, I couldn't take any of those risks. So I feel that with that part of that you added to the SuperFast CPA program, that was my solution. It was like my life side. It saved my life on that.
Salvavida. So that I love hearing that. That's been like my project for I'm still working on those videos. I'm working on bar right now, and I'm very happy to hear that they were helpful.
Helpful. I don't think I would have passed far if it has not been for those. That was the only way that I could, in a reasonable time. And reasonable time, even if I have more months trying to do it on the other ways that I was doing it, I was not going to do it, because for much repetition, there are so many topics that I just couldn't maintain. So, but those were short, to the point, clear. If I have a question, you responded, or the team that works with you behind. It was really like a personal coaching. That's how I felt. It was wonderful, really. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean that's the hope with those videos, is that they can be that extra support when people need them. And uh, I guess just for the people who are listening, we're talking about we have something that is still currently in beta because I'm still working on it. We have multiple choice question walkthrough videos that I've been going blueprint task by blueprint task in each of the exams and making a multiple choice question walkthrough video to teach that topic. So that's what we've been talking about, just in case anybody is wondering that. Um,
But it is
so,
not, it's much
uh-huh.
more, I mean, even though it's short, it's not just like a multiple choice question of the like the ones that chose in the program review. It is
Mhm.
more like a mix between a multiple choice question in the sense to make you feel that's not overwhelming, but kind of like a TBS in the content of what you are trying to cover there. That's how I felt it. Like that helped me also to do my TBS because I felt like I have pieces. Though I felt that many times, like this is like a piece of of a TBA,
Yes,
really,
yeah.
a task-based simulation. So yes, it was
Yes,
good.
there have definitely been many times where I've kind of had to break it up, like kind of like that. Yeah, like this is almost like one piece of a larger problem, but we're just going to learn it one piece at a time.
Mhm.
Um, that I mean, I'm just yeah, that I'm a, I'm very happy to hear that those were so helpful. Thank you for saying that. Um, and so I guess kind of along those lines.
Mhm.
So throughout this journey, throughout your process, we talked about the multiple choice question walkthrough videos. What I guess what would you say were the benefits that you got from SuperFast CPA that eventually led to you passing?
I feel that what Superfast CPA did with me was teach me a new way to learn because as I said, I love learning, but there is a moment, and this was the moment for me when knowledge is not enough. You need strategy,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
strategy is not a luxury. At least on this, is not a luxury. And learning using questions at the beginning is my new way to learn. Not only in for the CPA test, but I apply it in many other things. And I do it intentionally now. Maybe in the
Mm-hmm.
past, sometimes I learn using
Mm-hmm.
questions, yes. But now I have it as a clear way to learn faster and to learn better. It is with questions. And I have even tried to transmit this to other people, yeah.
Right. And
Which
I
is
mean
a
that's
huge
awesome.
thing
Yeah.
because this is going to be for the rest of my life. I mean, this is like when you teach someone to read, you are teaching them to read books the rest of their life. I feel that this teaching of how to learn is not a small thing. You are teaching people to learn the rest of what they have for life. That's
Yeah.
how I see it.
I mean, yeah, it is such a useful skill to be able to approach things that way, to kind of go straight to the heart of it and kind of piece it together that way
Mhm.
uh instead of having no context. I guess that's like a one of the biggest pieces of the whole Superfast CPA strategy is learning with context instead of not really knowing what you're supposed to understand, and then you just read a whole bunch of information, see a whole bunch of information, and you have no idea what's important. Um, so, yeah, I think that I like what you're saying there. So, you know, throughout this journey, I have another question actually,
Mhm.
and I ask this because there's actually a lot of people, as you've probably seen in the forum or just in your journey, who English is their second language, or
Mhm.
maybe even third or fourth.
Mhm.
Um, what challenges did that present to you? Like, for example, I have someone in the coaching program from Puerto Rico who, English is his. I mean, they speak English and Spanish a lot there, but still, English is harder for him.
Mhm.
So, what challenges did that present to you?
The fact that the CPA touches audit and accounting and the audit, well, on the disciplines that is touching now, introduces you in new worlds. Let's say, like where is information and information systems and controls also was a whole new world. So when you go to a new world there is a new group of vocabulary. So then you may know English, but you don't know the vocabulary that belongs to that.
Right.
For example, if you were going to do a study audit, and when we are studying, it's like we are working in the sense that you receive situations from different kind of industries and companies that have different processes. So then every time I have especially with the task-based simulations, every time I went to one of those, reading the story of the company made me find words that I didn't know, because I may not know about I don't know, the industry of plastic and then the words that they use. But the CPA doesn't pay attention to or doesn't consider who is the reader. They just want to expose you to all kind of industries. So what was my challenge? I had to find out what those words were. With it, I Google Translator. I didn't put the whole problem there, but the words that I didn't know, I had to look.
So if there was a specific word,
yes,
you would try to look it up.
Right, and that's extra time. Of course, it is extra time, but well, it is.
But you have to understand, and that's actually like, as I mentioned, there's multiple people that I talk with, especially in the coaching program, where English is not their first language, and that's something that I say all the time. Like, it is totally worth your time to make sure you actually understand what is being said. Like, for example, I'll have a client that Mandarin or Cantonese is their first language, and so they'll translate it into Chinese characters so they actually know what's going on, because they're like, I don't really understand what's going on. And I think that's great, because you have to understand the context. Otherwise, you're just things are just going to go over your head.
And important words, like it's not the same if it says between or above or beyond or all or except for or including. So you need to know every word, because a word can change the answer of the question.
Exactly.
And that
especially
happens
in ISC and audit.
In the multiple choice questions that are short, you need to know every word of that short question, because that can change the right response.
Super true, especially with ISC and audit. Like I was saying, like those two exams are so conceptual and so focused on, if you misunderstand one piece of it, you're going to get the wrong answer. So I was just curious, how that affected you. And I know that we're kind of coming up on an hour, so we won't take too much longer. But to me, it sounds like the biggest things were, how to learning from the questions and things like that. Was there any other part of your process that, before this call, you were thinking that you wanted to share and we haven't gotten to talk about yet?
Yes, let me touch some things. Well, first, I want you to know that the fact that I work with SuperfastCPA in all the previous tests at the time of taking information system and controls, where there are less resources in every place, there I turn to AI, but even having AI, because AI doesn't know everything, right? But asking the right questions also was so I feel like I could put in practice that ability of asking the right questions, and that helped me. Other thing that I want to say is about the flashcards. I had a flashcard overload starting the program until I decided, except for ISC, where I really wanted to study the flashcards that are already prepared, because those were concepts very specific and needed. I decided, like, maybe in half the way, that I will start using more my decks, which is the questions that the flashcards that I do myself. And I think it was very good for me that when I was doing the multiple choice questions, and not only when I found something that I didn't understand, not necessarily when I didn't understand it, because when I didn't understand it, I could decide to take later another test about that same topic. But when I found something that was really important, that I wanted to make sure that even if I knew it this time, I will remember the day of the test. I did flashcards where I even put, and this concept is in this multiple choice question problem. So I attach my cards to the problem where I have found that. That was very useful for me. And then towards the review time, I kind of deleted. I was consistently or throughout the time trying to delete flashcards and delete, and then leave a few ones. That I think that was important also, because at the beginning I did a lot of flashcards and I didn't have time to study them. So it was not a waste of time, because when I wrote it, that was a helper for my brain, but I couldn't really review there. I wanted to say also that's important to do those release exams from the AICPA, because they show you even though the review course shows examples of TVS, I feel that the TVS of the exams are like you need to guess more. That's my impression. Sometimes I thought, how do you want me to think? I wanted to take those tests, to those task-based simulations, because it was not clear to me exactly what they wanted. So my way to resolve that problem, I understood, was I need to see how they do their TVS, not only the TVS that we practice with the review course, but go to the AICPA release test that the review course should be giving you, and do all the TVAs that were there. That was a big help for me. Let me see what other thing. I think basically that's it. I cannot remember at this moment any other thing.
That's okay. I mean, you've shared some fantastic things, and I think the thing that I am very impressed with is your dedication. Like, it can be a really long journey, and it's such a trying journey. Like, you have to be working hard the whole time. So you were working at this for 4 years, and that must have been exhausting sometimes. How does it feel to be done? Have you guys done anything to celebrate, or are you going to celebrate?
No, unfortunately, we have, like, in my marriage, we have a tradition of doing things once a week. So for me, that is
you're already doing some dates and stuff like that. Yeah.
But I just thought of something else. I also heard the first time in one of your podcasts about Jim Quick. Jim Quick, he's like a brain trainer, a coach, brain coach. And he talks a lot about the importance of exercising, letting the oxygen go to your body, and how you eat and all those things. And I am very grateful that I took that, that I started to hear those podcasts from him at the beginning. Then once I had it in my life, I didn't worry anymore about that. For example, I bought a rebounder, and then that little speech that Nate makes in the application, where he puts in a note what the how to pass fast, I think it says. Many times, because I started to be lazy in one of the components of the course, while I was in my rebounder, I heard that it's like an English camp book class. You learn more every day rather than just going for a weekend in the camp book. Listening again to that, how to pass faster, was like a call to, okay, are you forgetting any of these points?
Right.
And keeping in mind that it's important to exercise, really. If not, and sleep enough and eat well. Take care of your body and your mind and your spirit. Take care of you, so you can face that stress and overcome those challenges.
Yeah.
Did you ask me a question that I didn't answer?
Oh, no. That was basically just, we were just kind of still wrapping up, like, anything that you had wanted to cover. And I think that as we wrap up, I mean, you probably covered a lot of this already, just barely, but I always like to ask this as the last question anyway. What would be your top 2 or 3 tips to somebody who's still going through the exams, even if it's something we've already talked about?
Well, if you are not if you are not someone that has been in this culture of what the CPA is, understand well things at the beginning. That's the first, my first advice. Then after that, I think that organization and planification is key. You need to know what you have in front, what's your challenge. You need to give deadlines to what you want to do, even though you are not going to probably accomplish those deadlines, but having them organized where you can see them, then you can move them. And it is easier than not having a plan at all. Also, for your own, to feel that you are accomplishing, for your mental health, for your emotional health, it's important to feel that you are progressing. So that measurement is important, being accountable with the time. At what time I started studying, I did it that way. At what time I finished, how was this week? That measurement was important for me. Then what this course teaches, which is that consistency, it's intensity. You are going to do more doing it every day, than only the weekends, trying to do everything on the weekends.
Right.
That's the way to do it. And I think those are my two things that please do not underestimate TBS. I have heard a lot that the multiple choice questions will prepare you for the TBS. That's true. But the TBS is a lot of multiple choice questions with the other part that they, as I said, you need to guess what they are wanting you to do. So then you need to do a lot of TBS. Yes.
Right. Yeah. That's exactly right. As far as the simulations is, multiple choice questions will teach you most of the material. They'll, they're super important, but you have to also know how to approach a sim. They just feel different. And if you look at it and you start panicking or you don't know how to do it, then all that knowledge that you have from the multiple choice questions isn't as useful. So yeah, practicing sims is super important. So you know how to actually do it, how to approach it, how to figure out what they want. I love that. And yeah, I mean, you've had a lot of fantastic tips. I mean, sounds like you got a lot of help from the podcast, and I think that this will be another great podcast that will help other people. So I'm glad that you were able to be on today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks for being on the call today, Suilvida. And again, congrats on being done. And I hope that you can get your license pretty soon here.
Thank you very much. I feel that you enriched my life. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that was the interview with Suilvida. I hope I'm saying that right. I used to speak Spanish years ago. I lived in Costa Rica for 2 years, but I've lost a lot of it. So hopefully I'm saying that right. But that was the episode, and I hope that you really enjoyed it. I thought that she had an awesome story about, going into it pretty much completely blind at first, but learning a lot, learning how the exams actually worked, and then persevering through and being able to pass all the exams, even with English not being her first language. Again, I know there's a lot of CPA exam candidates who have that struggle where English is not their first language. I can imagine that audit would be super difficult for somebody whose first language is not English, just because audit is already super difficult when English is your first language. So I am really happy that I was able to talk to Suilvida and really get some good tips and advice for other people who are listening to this podcast for how to work through the exams, especially again when, Spanish was her first language. I hope that you liked this episode. I thought there were a lot of great tips, a lot of great stories. I personally really liked her story about when she was reading scriptures and felt like God spoke to her, saying that she needed to go back and reconsider and buy SuperfastCPA, which ultimately did end up being something that was very useful for her journey. So again, thank you for watching or listening. I hope that you found this episode helpful. As a reminder, just like at the beginning of the episode, I want to remind you now about the SuperfastCPA training webinar on SuperfastCPA.com, where it is a free 1-hour webinar where we teach you the key ingredients to passing the CPA exam. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out buying the pro course or buying the supplemental study materials that we have, or of course getting the total bundle, which includes everything. And with all that, that is the end of this episode. So thank you for watching or listening, and we will see you in the next one.